Hey guys, how you doing? Uncle Steph here. So, what is the new programming language that everybody has to learn now? It's the new abstraction layer. You see this happen once in a while in the development space where a new language or a new library comes out. Think React, think MVC frameworks like Laravel or like Rails at one point, etc. So every once in a while, a new technology comes out that has a huge impact in terms of development. It's the new layer of abstraction. What it also does, it also changes up the whole game where the skill sets of a developer changes. So if you don't know me, I've been coding commercially since the early 90s. So I've seen several changes. The big change that I saw is, well, two things. A, when we went from thick client development for desktop to web-based apps, and then I saw the mobile age come about with the iPhone and the Android devices, etc. What I also saw, though, was the move from memory unsafe languages like C and C++ to memory safe quasi-compiled, quasi-scripting languages like Java and C#. We had full-blown scripting languages at the time, like Perl, but what Java and C# did, they kind of found like a hybrid, a middle ground, where they are compiled languages, but they run on a lower level language. They still are interpreted as well. Anyway, with each new level of abstraction that comes out, we see a huge productivity increase in development. And number two, we see a change in the skill sets that are required. I remember back in the day when Java came about, and then later on, a few years later, C# and so on. I remember when those languages came out, challenging the dominance of the C and C++ world. People started doing things with Java and, Java and other, I guess Java, maybe Python a little bit, although it's not the same thing. But anyway, what people used to do with C and C++, people started using scripting languages and quasi-scripting languages like a Java, C# to replace that. And I remember the C++ people were having kittens. They're freaking out. And they were saying with accuracy, oh, those languages, Java is slow. You don't have nearly as much control as you have with your software, like you have when you write something in C or C++, blah, blah, blah. Nonetheless, Java and the interpreted languages and the scripting languages became dominant. Now, C++ is still being used quite a bit when you need raw speed and so on, or you need very, very efficient code like C for small device driver creation, etc. But nonetheless, the rise of that new layer of abstraction, the interpreted language, the scripting language, became very, very, very important. In fact, they're the most used, right? And what allowed that to happen, of course, was that CPUs became cheap and fast, and memory became cheap and fast, and disk space became cheap and fast. So the weaknesses, if you will, of the interpreted languages and the scripting languages, that is to say, lack of speed, became a non-issue because hardware became so powerful. So what's going on today? By the way, I include those abstraction layers. You also have to include libraries like React and Vue and so on, and Bootstrap and so on. Now, when you do have a new abstraction, like a new language, a higher level language, or a library, a framework, etc., it does not mean you don't need to know the fundamentals of development. You still need to understand the basic principles and techniques, which we're going to talk about in the video very soon. So, for example, when Bootstrap came out, which allowed you to easily design web UI, when that came out, it didn't mean you didn't need to know HTML and your CSS and your JavaScript. It just meant because the Bootstrap framework relies on all this, but it just meant you had to write a lot less of it, and you had to spend a lot less time on it. Now, since then, CSS3 came out, and Grid and Flexbox replaced the need for Bootstrap to a great extent, but still a lot of people use Bootstrap. Same thing with React. just because React hides a lot of the tricky DOM manipulation that guys like me would have to do raw. It hides it from you, and you use React and you get a lot more done. You're so much more productive. It's like a lever, right? Like if you try to lift something like this, it's hard. But if you got a lever, you can lift a lot more. You got to look at all these technologies, whether it be languages and libraries, they're levers. They're levers of productivity for the developer. These new technologies, of course, are AI, the models. You have to look at the models. So whether it be Open AI, the ChatGPT, the O1 and soon to be released, I'm recording this January 27th, the O3 model, which are reasoning and thinking models. And then you have, what's that other company? Another company that came up one, DeepSeek. So the Chinese have come up with a model that's actually just as powerful as the current ChatGPT's best model, which is the O1 model. So that's the Chinese AI models. AI models are speeding up quite a bit. Now I have a meeting tomorrow with a friend of mine who's got his, I think he's got his PhD, did research in AI for Facebook, and he now is a full-time AI mega nerd. So I'm going to have brunch with him tomorrow. I'll get back to you guys what I learned from him. Anyway, so you got all kinds of models. And they all have their pros and their cons. I have a meeting I'm going to be releasing very soon with somebody who has an AI-based business, but I'll get into that in that video. Anyway, so you got to look at these AI models as the new abstraction layer, the new language, the new Java, or the new React, or the new Vue. You get the idea? And like the other previous abstractions that I've seen, what I talked about before, when I saw the rise of compiled, hybrid, compiled, memory-safe technologies, or even OOP-based languages, or when I saw the rise of web-based application development over thick client app development. These are all abstractions, and AI is no different. So it is an abstraction. So I have some notes here I wrote, and I'm going to give you. I actually went to AI to get some feedback on my thoughts here. So I said to the AI, I said, "What do you think of this reasoning regarding AI and developers? Developers must become AI devs." So what do I mean by that? Do I mean you have to develop AI? No, it means that you have to use and recognize AI or AIs, the models, as the new super productive language, the new React, if you will. I'm making an analogy here, if you will, but you understand what I mean. So I write, what do I mean by AI dev? Think of AI models as the new abstraction, the level of tech that hovers over all the programming languages, like the libraries, the frameworks, and so on. You have to learn the fundamentals of development first, no question. So here's the path for you guys. You got to learn your fundamentals. I do teach the fundamentals. So you know your options, and so you can tweak things with some understanding. You see, the AIs are not perfect, although with O3, they could be next to perfect. But in the end, AI is going to be the new language, if you will. So you're almost like an HR of AI. So developers are developers. I've said this before. You got the coders who are writing the code, and developers are also coders, but coders are not necessarily developers. So you want to become a developer. A developer puts together a whole bunch of disparate systems and understands the business case, the use case problem, and understands the options. So you might go to an AI and say, hey, we have a trucking company, and they want to track the trucks going from here to there and this and that, and you got to track whatever, gas usage and so on. So this is what we have to do. You talk to the owner. Say, okay, do you want the drivers to track this? Or are you going to give them, they're going to put it on their phone, or they're going to go through a website? You think they can do that? Or you want to give them a pad? How do you want to handle this? So as a developer, you got to start mining all this information, right? And then based on the information you get from the owner, and maybe you have to interview some managers and so on. If you're going to start thinking about, okay, how would you build this? Would you go React Native? Would you go Flutter? Or maybe you have to go native. You have to do a native iOS app and a native Android app. Or maybe PWA would be enough. So these are questions that will be answered based on your experience and your training, so you understand how to build systems. But then you're going to get online with the latest, smartest reasoning AI model, like the O3 and the O1, and you got that again, the aforementioned Chinese one, I keep forgetting, with DeepSeek model. I think it's called R1. So all the modern languages, Java, C#, PHP, Kotlin, Swift, all the modern languages are just abstractions over older languages like C and C++ and assembler. The skill of the assembler coder are no longer relevant in typical development. And I think the need to be a great coder in many respects is going away. Coder and developer, there's a distinction there as I cover. A great developer, though, will still be highly valued. In 2026, the developer's main language tool, their main language, their main framework is the AI. You're going to let the AI take care of a lot of the detail, all the plumbing, if you will, but the developer is going to be using the AI. So you want to get ahead, start becoming very familiar with the AI tools. Soon you will be able to run local models, local AIs that are fast, have reasoning skills, and specialize. You'll be able to run them on your own laptop. Security issues will not be a thing since we are seeing open source models like DeepSeek, and they're performing better than the best closed source models. So you're seeing a huge, huge change in things. So 2-3 years ago, when the first GPT came out, I said, you won't have to worry about coding and development for a few years. Well, it's a little faster than I thought, but again, developers still are a thing. And I always want people to become developers. But if you're a scripter, then yes, those jobs are going to go away. So I asked ChatGPT O1, their most advanced reasoning model, what I thought about this. And he goes, so ChatGPT O1 says, your reasoning captures a larger shift that's taking place in software development quite well. Here are a few reflections on your main point. So I'm going to post this in the comments below so you can take a look. It's pretty cool. AI is a new abstraction layer. So that's the first point, as I talked about. Historical precedent over time, we moved from assembly to C, to higher level languages, to frameworks, to low code, no code abstractions. I forgot to mention that. Low code, I talked about that a few years ago. They're useful. Each abstraction helps developers focus on higher level logic and use case issues, rather than getting bogged down in the detail. Even today, I can tell you, the majority of your time as a developer, this is before AI, is in working out how you're going to organize everything. That's the hard part. AI models, they are starting to act as yet another abstraction, generating or assisting in generating the underlying code for us. So just as we typically no longer hand optimize assembly, the assembly language, you can expect that large swaths of plumbing code will be handled by AI. This is true. So you're worried, will that code be good? Well, you just run the code. And then you can have another AI inspect the code. That's why you got to start becoming knowledgeable about the various models, just like you have to be knowledgeable about the various frameworks. Sometimes you need to use React. Sometimes you need to use PWA. Sometimes you got to know Swift. So if you are a mobile developer, you should be aware of the various options that you have. Flutter is another example. You have to be aware. You may prefer using React, but sometimes it may make sense to use Flutter, and sometimes it may make sense to use native iOS. Fundamentals still matter. It's point number 2. Core skills, understanding the data structures. Again, I don't agree with ChatGPT there. Data structures and algorithms are not very important unless you're doing with very high-performant coding. But that's, again, you can work with the AI to get that. But design patterns and architecture, they don't lose value. That's the key. And also being able to interface, to talk to the bosses and so on, to figure out what it is that they need for the project. That's a huge thing. Because as a business owner, they don't know where to start, right? So that's where the developer comes in. Reasoning about the big picture. If you don't know software fundamentals, you won't know if an AI's output is incorrect, suboptimal, or misses edge cases. Edge cases means, rare circumstances where you may have to do this or the other thing. AI can be extremely helpful, but you're still responsible for building reliable systems. So number 3, great developer versus AI developer overlap. A great developer's core skill set, problem solving, architectural thinking, debugging stays the same. Shifting focus. Developers who learn how to effectively leverage AI tooling will likely become more productive. Well, they will be. I'll finish the paragraph and I'll just tell you a quick story. That's the difference between being a coder, purely implementing instructions, and being a developer, creating solutions. I like that. A coder is purely implementing instructions. You're just writing lines of code. But a developer is creating entire solutions. In my mentoring program, I'm all about being a developer. Future skill sets. In practical terms, you'll need to know how to integrate AI-driven components, such as LLMs, into your software. That's the big, huge thing. That's what my friend does, by the way, his company. I have an interview I recorded. I just got to edit it and put it out. That's what he does. He implements AI models, and he delivers it through a web app. So there's a lot of development work. Manage prompt engineering, structuring prompts in context to get consistent results. This is where you have to have really good logical, structured thinking. Fine-tune or customize AI models for specific domains. Again, fine-tuning. Evaluate AI outputs with testing, monitoring, guardrails, like generating test cases, verifying them automatically. So these are all, I would say, they're high-level skill sets. Like we see now, where even before AI, there's a lot of skill sets that the assembler coders had, and maybe some C coders had, you don't need anymore, or C++ coders have. Like if you're writing higher level language like Java, C#, JavaScript, types, you don't have to worry about memory management. That was a skill. You don't have to do that anymore. So there's more ahead. It talks about looking ahead, AI as a service, the hybrid approach. Many real-world scenarios may mix local interfaces for some tasks, plus cloud-based, more powerful models for heavier tasks. That's what my friend does. We talked about that as well. They will use different models for different applications. There's a cost associated with that. Again, that's where you become the expert. You may say, I want to use O1 for this, or for this particular part of the app here, I only need to use ChatGPT 4, for example, which is far faster and cheaper. Bottom line, this is AI responding to my question to it, and this is the thinking AI, the GPT-01. Your core insights that AI will be the new abstraction or language is on target. The types of tasks developers handle will evolve. As I saw before, they evolved from when I started from where we are now before AI, big difference. Less mechanical coding and more orchestration, integration, and creative problem solving. I like how it summarized it. Did a good job here. So again, modern development is about less coding, mechanical coding, more about orchestration, integration, and problem solving. Developers who embrace AI as a tool rather than fear it or avoid it will have a significant advantage because they'll be able to build sophisticated features quickly and reliably. The story I was going to mention before, I was speaking to somebody who has a development company. They were saying they were able to develop an app in 3 months, which without AI would have taken them a year. So one of the big things about AI is going to allow small startups to be able to compete with the big boys, because that big barrier, having to hire 300 coders to develop something, with these AI tools, you'll be able to start producing sophisticated apps with far less human resources. And human resources is the big cost of any tech company. This is huge. This is huge. The playing field is going to be leveled quite a bit because of AI. Developers who embrace AI as a tool rather than, okay, did that. Fundamentals of software engineering remain indispensable. As with every new abstraction, you still need to understand how it all works under the hood to make best use of it. So ChatGPT-01 concludes, all told, your reasoning is aligned with what a lot of industry watchers are predicting. In the near future, being an AI developer may simply be called being a developer. Hey guys, I'm Uncle Steph. I've been in the software development game since the 1990s. I've been an entrepreneur since I've been 18 years old. Last time I had a job, I was a bouncer in a nightclub. My last job concluded with this. Not really, it was more like this. Anyway, So, yeah, I mentor people in software development, in small business development, freelancing. I figure instead of you having to spend decades learning this stuff and digging around, trying to feel your way through your career and your financial situation, your health situation blindly, you can learn from all my mistakes and my successes. So there you go. I'll leave you with this. If you're getting into software development, forget about the React courses and the Vue courses. Just do the fundamentals, then get into AI. I'm going to put out some videos on, I'll give you specific paths. I give you a quick light outline now. And just get in there and become one of the new AI developers, which will eventually become a developer, just as I did. Back when I started building web apps, I would go in to see clients and they would say to me, what's a website? And we used to call web apps back in the day, dynamic database-driven websites. Nobody knew what that was. And a lot of people, including people like Bill Gates, would say, oh, that web is just a fad. Bill Gates said the web is just a fad. But I was one of the first to jump in the game back in the early 90s, and it gave me huge advantages. And a lot of the old jobs disappeared in development, but they were more than replaced and multiplied into all these new jobs. So I think AI is going to do the same thing. AI is the new language. AI is the new abstraction layer. AI is the new React. AI is the new Java, the new C#. You get the idea. So jump into it, and you're going to be a superstar. All right. If you want to learn more about my mentoring program, you take a look below, links below. I have a second mentoring programming coming out. My first one was on coding. It's been around 5 years. I've trained thousands how to become coders, how to be developers. The main value of the program, besides all the interactive training, which is unique, easy to get your fundamentals down, is we have bi-weekly live coaching sessions with me. Zoom, 10 people show up, 5 people show up, 15 people show up. Every 2 weeks, you get to ask me questions, hear other people's questions. So you get that guidance. You get that guidance from somebody who's been in the game for decades. I have a new program coming out for entrepreneurs, business leaders, CTOs, people want to be freelancers, how to monetize code, how to start businesses, how to build. I've done a bunch of these things, little companies. I'm a small business bootstrapper, and I've mentored people who've actually built billion-dollar businesses. So, yeah, I can help you there as well. That program's coming out soon. Not sure exactly when. It's January 27, 2025. It should be out within the next few weeks. I'm working on the details. Cheers.